Hey there, I'm Tracy Rigdon, and this is the Contrast Project Lounge podcast. Often random, but always relevant, always real, and practically nothing is off limits. This podcast is for you. Are you ready for this? Let's do it. Welcome back, everybody, to Wednesday night live edition of the Contrast Project Lounge podcast with my host, my co-host, Mr. Jim Alabiso. Jim, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, Trace. This is the second episode in a row that I'm not wearing cool glasses like you because you didn't chew me up. So next time I'm gonna find some Elton Johns.
You gotta go on Amazon and just order up a bunch of cheap frames. That's all you gotta do.
Yeah, I'm gonna be like Benny and the Jets next time, next show.
With little flame, just something with feathers on the top of there, you know. Hey,
there we go. That's all me.
I know. Hey, we've got a very special guest with us tonight, don't we?
We do. Very, very, very special.
We have
you want to introduce her?
We do. We have Miss Val Herrmann with us. Val, how are you doing?
Well, thank you.
Tell us a little bit about.
Wait a minute. You said Val, how are you? And she said. Oh, okay, sorry.
Now, Val, you're the executive director of First Coast Urban Ag. So can you give us an overview of the programs and workshops, offered by First Coast Urban Ag, and what is First Coast Urban Ag?
Yes. So we have relatively new start with these programs that we're doing. We just got a grant from the Cummer Family Foundation to do a pilot play garden, which is an agriculturally immersive playground in the urban core. So that is our star program right now. It runs from July to December, and at the end of the grant period, we'll have a course book and different programs for children and a play garden where children and families can come and experience nature that is supportive to human beings. It's a place where instead of boxes of produce, where it's consumerism or just extracting from nature, it's actually basically a playscape with agricultural plants, but they're treated with horticultural care. So children come, when it comes to play, we have other typical traditional elements in the playground, like swings or climbing dome or climbing ropes, a mud kitchen or a clubhouse. But then they just simply by coming to play, they experience the seasons, different caterpillars, different flowers, different scents, different things that are in season. And even if they don't come to any class or workshop, they see sugarcane, they see cotton, they see cabbage or broccoli or lettuce, while they're picking up sticks and climbing trees and picking berries, and just really just immersing themselves in nature. So, and it's for the parents too. A tradition. I have a 6-year-old, so I've been through. You take them to the playground, and it's this searing hot landscape with no trees and some metal structure.
I hear you.
In the middle, where okay, run and play, kids, and then the parents are just, have these metal benches they're supposed to sit on and just look through their phone while their kids are playing. And that's just not the kind of culture I want. It's okay. The kids have fun. They run and play, but it only lasts so long. Right. And then you're missing connection with your child. And also we're putting in a connection with nature. It's also in those playgrounds, the nature is on the periphery. There's create hurdles into the corners, and you're not even their landscapes not even really meant to be looked at. They're kind of
Right.
neglected, right? So we're kind of flipping the whole thing and having trees that kids can actually climb, things that are nothing is toxic, things they can actually pick or play with. So that's it in a nutshell. I could go on, but if
It
you
seems like there's so many
yeah,
many distractions in the world, right? I
yeah,
mean, anything from a swing to a telephone to a car to
Yeah.
whatever, and nobody pays attention to everything that's growing around them,
sure,
you
yeah,
know? And
yeah.
even when there's none of those things around, there's always something. What was that name of that movie? It was the book, The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. Did you ever hear of that book? It was written by Dan Millman, but one of the things he said in that book is that there's never nothing going on, and if you
There's
just look around, you can just see, you
I think
know.
there's
Yeah,
never boring. It's the perfect co-parent instead of a screen. You know,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, children give I
yeah.
mean, give children a screen as their co-parent. Like they need help here. Look at a screen. I gotta go do this. But if children are in nature, there's never nothing to see or do. There's always novelty. There's always something new, right? Like there's
Yeah.
yeah. I'm part of the
It,
homeschool co-op group for the past year, and we decided we were going to different parks every Monday. We have a Monday meetup, and we
mhm.
decided eventually that we want to go to parks that have no playground or playgrounds are very minimal. So the kids they just run and play in nature, and they get along better.
Yeah.
They just are more intuitive. They're not they get bored with the playground or they start to fight because they bring toys, they put down the slide, or
Yeah.
they just
There's nothing to fight over, is there? Really?
not if there is,
Could-
there's something else they find right
It's,
away.
yeah,
There's plenty
they
of
might fight over a tree limb.
frog, lizards abundant, you know,
Yeah,
they'll tumble in the grass. But what we're doing a little different from that, I mean, I want both, bring my child to the wild and see all the birds and the different things out in nature. But here in the
Mhm.
play garden in the urban core, it's somewhat similar in that it's nature immersion, but then it's um, almost homocentric, like human centered. Like everything is to nourish ourselves too. So mulberry trees, like they can fly to the tree, loquat tree. But then you don't have to bring a huge snack pack. You can, there'll be you still do. But there might be things to snack on there, or
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's really
I
exciting.
like that. I like that phrase, "child in the wild," rather than "wild child."
Exactly.
There's your child in the.
Yeah, and that's a Jamaican sorrel, and that's at the play garden in the urban core. So that's in amongst historic houses.
Wow. So Val, you say it's in the urban core. Where is the play garden located in the urban core?
It's in the historic field. So it's the market. Tuesdays and Fridays, so you're welcome to come and volunteer. Anybody that's listening.
Cool.
So how does
Well, it would be great if they contact me first, so I know when it's coming. Email me, or text or Instagram. Any mode of communication first would be great.
Sure.
But
okay?
there's lots to do. So we're just clearing the land right now of just summer madness, I'll call it. But
Yes.
things
Yeah,
and neglected and just rampant with rains coming and stuff. We're getting the nursery back together. So there's a nursery, 6 or 7 market garden beds. So also in the process, like for somewhat older children, I want to share that there are professions that they can go into in agriculture. So market gardening, there's like a 30-inch bed, and they get to see like It's just a sample. It's not for production. But you get to see 100 basil in a bed rather than at a home garden. You're only growing one, right? So you see what that looks like, what it's like to harvest, just how to grow densely for a market. Regenerative, everything's grown not just organically but regeneratively. So that means like no till. We use fertilizers that I make with green natural farming methods, biological inputs like compost teas. So we focus on biology to make the plants healthy and happy. So that in turn
That's
makes us
fantastic.
healthy and happy. Yeah.
Now,
Thanks.
I think I read somewhere or I understand that you have some other gardeners that may be helping you out with this program with First Coast Urban Ag. I believe I read somewhere. Correct me if I'm wrong. Overall's Farm.
We did our traffic mix compost from Overalls. They're not particularly supplying us with volunteers. We did get a letter of support from Groundwork Jacksonville. KEL said in the letter that they would organize a volunteer group, and they also would like to do another play garden on the Emerald Trail. So
nice.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll get this going. We have a letter of support from UNF, from the Early Childhood Development Center. We'll get an intern or people interested in studying outdoor early childhood education.
We have a
So who's doing work? Who's doing groundwork Jacksonville these days? Who's running that? It's okay. You can crack up if you want.
Yeah.
This is like the laughing Buddha on the train.
Yeah. Hey,
we're doing all this. We're doing all this drug free. Also,
that's right. And Jim, you ought to give your dogs some squeak toys while we're doing this. Give them some of those squeaky toys.
That's true. They just took all the little squeakers out of them. That's all they care about. Then they discard them. Hey, I want to show off to Val just for a minute. So I'm going to show you this picture, Val. Well, first I'll just kind of give it some context. I went to Dartmouth, England, September, October, something last year, which happens to have zillions of gardens. Everybody in England gardens, But before I left, I cleaned out my refrigerator and took all the stuff out that was going to spoil and gave it to people, except for this one little sweet potato I left in a bowl. My sad little sweet potato. So when I got home, it started sprouting, and I just left it in the bowl, and I was busy doing stuff, and it just started sprouting and sprouting and sprouting. So along with my pets Silky and Sama and Sky, this is
hey,
yeah. So this is Tate now is basically taking up most of the right window of my kitchen. And then she has a baby now. Who's about 3 or 4 inches tall now. She had a little sprout, and I put that in another planter. And so this is all I know about growing things. That's it. So hey, I had to look up how to make them thrive. They drink water like it's going out of style.
Yes, they do.
Amazing.
I mean, it's just like they just drink and drink and drink. I got to water this lady every day, So, but okay, that was my little show off thing, because that's about all I can do gardening wise. Although I did start some flowers from seeds to see if I could actually do that, because I didn't learn it from my parents. It's not part of my genetics. We used to call my dad round thumb, literally, when he accidentally sprayed weed killer instead of insecticide on a bunch of poplar trees.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, back when we were kids. All right, so I'm going to roll. I got to roll. Go back in time for a minute. Okay. So this picture kind of reminds me back of European Street.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? Is that where the garden was?
It was behind European Street, off Beach and University.
Yeah. So, and that kind of reminded me, it's like, because when I met you years and years and years and years ago, I think it was at Ram or something like that, right? And you were doing the shock tea kale chips.
Right. Right. That's right.
Right?
Yes.
Right. And
I was a raw vegan.
yeah, that's what was going on. You could buy them at Grassroots, I mean, there were just a big rack of them over there. And,
That
I remember you had a booth there, and you gave me your recipe. I still have it around here somewhere on a little card. But anyway, so, huh?
I said, don't chew
Don't
them.
what? No, I went into business myself. I just changed the name, call them Jim Key chips. So I've been making millions. Anyway, the reason why I'm going back that far is because when you go from doing what you were doing back then and going to what you're doing now, there's a journey you got to take. I always say it's all about the journey. So how did you get from doing that to doing this wonderful thing you're doing now, especially with the kids and all that work? What took you there?
I had a kid.
That's a serious question. You can laugh still if you want, but
I mean, kids change your life. It's really all about them. And yeah, back at European Street, that was an amazing, amazing garden that is no longer there. And it got turned into a car wash.
oh, great!
Yeah.
Nice.
Is it an organic car wash
Nice.
with spring water?
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Car wash.
it was beautiful. I remember you gave me a short little tour. I wasn't there that long, but you gave me a short little tour of the garden, and I'd never seen anything like it, so it was all kind of new to me. But
yeah.
so in between that and now, motherhood came along.
Between that and how what my son?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So motherhood just kind of changed the path a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I was working at White Harvest Farm, Clear White Missions Harvest Farm, and I helped transition that from it was a brownfield, and then it was chemically farmed for years, and then Jacoby and others wanted to turn it into an organic farm, and so they hired me. I worked and helped transition it to be an organic farm, and I was on the grant writing committee, and we got a USDA grant for $250,000, and then I had a son, and I quit, and I
okay.
for a few years, and I studied some early childhood education, and we did Waldorf at the play garden at the beach. It's all about seasonal songs and being in nature and following the child, and I just learned so much from that group. I was an assistant teacher in the forest program in my son's preschool, and so just putting that together with my agricultural background is really what helped the play garden emerge in the urban core. Otherwise, might just be doing market gardening. I mean, I love it. I studied with Jean-Martin Fortier in Quebec, Canada. He did a master class online, and we just learned everything there is to know about intensive market production farming. He makes $200,000 on like 1 acre, or 100,000 per acre, 100,000 per acre, which makes it feasible for young people coming up that like farming but don't know if they could actually make a living at it. It's like, well, yes, you can, and so he really brought that to the forefront. You can make a living doing market gardening and organically, and so I probably would still be doing that instead of play garden stuff. But I took a few years off, and I was my ex. His dad is a master instructor in karate, so I was helping with that business. And got a brown belt, so don't fuck with me.
There you go. There you go. She's a brown belt.
I'm turning my camera off.
There you go. There you go.
So if we don't ask the right question, she's going to kick our ass.
I know.
So, Tracy, the thing is, Trace, is that, I was over at Trace's house a couple of weekends ago. I was in Keystone because I needed some time out in the country to become one with nature and all that. It's a nice place to go just to chill for a weekend or whatever. On the way back, I stopped at Tracy's house, and he's got quite a bit of land there.
Yeah.
Trace, and Val said that you can make a living.
I could, and I have a tractor. I could till it up. I have
There you go.
I have a nice.
He's not only that, he's got a deer trail over there, Valerie.
Yeah.
There's a deer trail.
Okay.
Yeah. Runs right through the back of my property. And they're out there all the time. Every morning now. And now we got another big family of turkeys coming through there every morning. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, you can make money just having a retreat out there too.
You know, the problem I had with my last garden, it's a nice sized garden. I had 5 rows about 30 feet long. The problem was it's really sandy here, so you got to pick what you plant for one. Even if I mend the soil, you know, you got to work with that. And then it's water intensive because of the sand and because of all this amazing heat. And lately we've had heat and drought conditions. So it's been wreaking havoc on that garden out there. And I had to plant.
See, now if you go to Valerie's thing and volunteer in Springfield, you might learn some things about keeping that ground saturated and holding that water there.
Yeah,
I know how to keep it saturated. Run my pump half the day. Yeah. I ain't gonna burn my pump up. I'm not.
Yeah, not for the pump.
Yeah. I mean, I might put another pump down. Another well down next year and put a pump out there just for the garden. I might, maybe. Not sure yet, but that's the only way I do it because the pump feeds the house. We don't have city water out here. Now, what are some of the, what is the, you know, going back to the play garden and working with the kids and everything, you had mentioned earlier too, that it's a family affair, that you encourage, that it's not a drop-off daycare. This is a place where the folks have to come and stay with the kids and get involved.
Right. Yeah. Not a daycare.
It's not a babysitting job.
No.
Right.
It's more like a park. But and I'm going to put up signs that are Wi-Fi. You have to turn off your phone. So, you know, parents can take pictures, but the whole point is that we connect. Our byline is, what's our byline? Cultivating connection. So it's cultivating connection not only with nature and the land, but with each other. Times where they can interact, they can play. The parents could cut trees if they want, but even if they just sit there and observe their children, they're going to be seeing different kinds of butterflies or, God forbid, snakes, smelling different scents, you know, through the seasons. So there's like caterpillars like fall from the trees, and they're crazy. If you know a toxic caterpillar, you know, like these hairy little caterpillars, and they can actually irritate your skin. Anyway, it's just one season in the spring, but like these seasons come and go, and it just becomes part of it. Just living a real life, you know. When the mulberries come in season, or when citrus comes in season. As Jim put up some tools, real tools for little hands. You know, like you know, you're with them and you teach them how to use the tools, but then kids, they want responsibility, they want independence, they want to be able to, you know, use their own little pruners or clippers or things like that. So we provide some of those things. And I saw a blind. Have you guys seen a blind snake? You know what that is? My son and I were lifting up.
What snake?
It's called the common name is blind snake. It's like 4 to 6 inches long. It looks like a worm, but it's actually a snake. And
I'll be darned.
My son and I were looking at the log, and we found this little blind snake, and it was just so cool. You know, I mean, it's non-venomous. It eats and termite eggs and larvae and pupae, and so it's actually really beneficial. And if you look really close, they have little scales on them, and they have barely had little dots for eyes. Just like things like that. Like there's always something new. There's this novelty that um I didn't know that they existed, but I learned something new, and it's just
I'm
fun.
today
It's
years
just
old.
fun.
I'm today years old that I found out about that snake.
Me too. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah.
What is the impact that you hope? I know we're teaching families and kids and their parents, to get out there in nature and get their hands dirty and learn new tools and everything. Do you
Right.
think the impact, and I know that some other groups are doing the same thing that you're doing roughly. There's some other groups that have, small gardens or larger gardens and areas where kids go and all that. What is the impact that you hope that your group, your playground garden, is going to have on the Springfield? Look at him.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at this photo, Jim.
I know
I'm
Jim's
trying to
playing
see
over
what.
there.
No, just like, I'm sorry, it's not what you're talking about right now, but I was just looking at how involved the parents were,
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
here,
I love that.
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, there's studies that have been done that for ADHD for children, walking in an urban environment, like a 10-minute walk in an urban environment, like with manicured lawns and stuff, doesn't do much for children with ADHD. But
Mhm.
if you take them to a park or in the wild where things aren't so manicured and there's like actually life happening, their focus improves dramatically. So, and that's not just for kids, but for parents, for people in general. Like grounding, there's so much technology and EMFs flying around in the air, and just like taking your shoes off while you're there, putting your feet on the soil.
Mm-hmm.
I lost you guys.
That's really sharp. Now, if you think about it, if you go to most other countries besides the U.S., we just lost Val, so we'll have her log back in. But Jim, if you know about how other countries are, you'll know that you see that kind of action in a lot of places where the kids are, out in the gardens with their families on the daily.
Yeah, when I was overseas just a couple months ago,
Yeah,
just from a cultural standpoint, was that everybody was together all the time. Looking in the yards, small yards. Some of them are big yards, some of them are farm yards, but all the kids and the moms and the dads and whatever were out there,
right,
working, doing a lot of stuff together instead of. I guess culturally we're just things are different, but because like, for us, spending time with the kids might be, hey, let's all sit on the couch and watch a movie, which is really isn't all that much interaction, or let's sit around and watch the Tracy Rigdon show. Sorry. And in other cultures, that's not necessarily the case,
Right. That's a fact.
So
That's a fact.
did Val lose her signal?
I believe she did. We started losing signal early. She had a bad connection from beginning, but that's okay. She can log back in if she feels like it's okay. But what we were saying earlier, there were she's back. There are other organizations in town that have these like gardens and family things. Like Kendall Schmidt has one, and Jamie Miller has the place out there. Where kids can come and families can come, and I mean, it's starting to be a regular thing.
Yeah, that's a wonderful thing. I took my grandson out to Keystone when I went there. That same weekend I came to see you. They just came in separate cars, and took him out to the lake and we went swimming and this kind of thing. There's no TV at that house either. Nothing. No internet, no TV, none of that.
Yeah. I mean, it's always a really good thing to see, these groups doing these things and, getting families together, kids and their parents and, everybody having a day at the farm and, everybody walks away, feeling a little bit better than they would, as like she said, earlier about taking kids to the playground, and it's hot as fire out there. There's usually no shade. And a lot of the times the parents just cut the kids loose and then go try to find a place to sit. They're getting hot and bothered, and they're saying to themselves,
right. Sorry. You remember Todd Rundgren?
"Oh yeah,
yeah." So
Simon, the old college."
He's like, yeah, I've always been a follower, and I actually got to do a little bit of work for him years and years ago. Yeah, when I had my post-production house, I did some scenes for one of his videos. I just remember I can't remember what album it was. We were just talking about editing, right?
Yeah.
He was on an album, and he was just talking about, before he went in between songs, he started talking about the editing process, but he was just being silly about it. And he goes, "This is the sound of bad." And yeah, I was a big fan. There she is.
Cool.
If you hear my dogs barking in the background, my balcony is 3 stories up, and there's a big oak tree. There's some branches hanging near. Squirrels like to jump off and hang out on the balcony, so I started putting bird seed and peanuts out there for them. Yeah. So my sliding glass door to the balcony on the 3rd floor is Netflix for them. They'll just sit there and watch the squirrels, and they've learned most of the time not to bark unless the squirrel moves suddenly, because they know if they bark, the squirrels go away, right? So they have to be quiet.
My dog
Your dog what?
My dog hasn't learned that yet. He just barks his
yeah. Well, it took a while, I'll tell you that. It took a while, but, no drop-offs there either. I have to stay here with them while they enjoy nature at its best on my balcony. Can't get the birds over there, though.
Hey, Val.
Right, Selkie. Anyway, yeah. I wanted to ask Val about the Korean, because I was reading here in her notes about Korean natural farming. How is that different than other natural farming? What's special about Korean natural farming?
Well, it was brought to the masses, I suppose you could say, by Master Cho from Korea, and I learned from someone in Hawaii that they have the largest organic farm in Hawaii, and then the largest Korean natural organic farm in the world. It's an 800-acre macadamia nut farm, and they're doing so well, and they did a test plot of 10 acres using these Korean natural farming methods, and the trees, they came back to health, and then it did so well, they just are now doing it on the whole 800 acres. So
wow.
Yeah, so it's a way of, it's all about biology. It's baiting indigenous microorganisms with some sort of starch. So traditionally, rice is cooked and used as bait, basically, in a wooden box. And you put it out in like the most natural, pristine-ish environment you can find, close to your place, in the wood that's undisturbed. And the idea is that there is the most diversity of microorganisms in that environment. And so you bait them with the starch. They come into the rice and populate the rice, and then you harvest that after 5 days to a week. And then there's a series of processes you do. Mix it with brown sugar and things to do to stabilize it. But basically, you're baiting these indigenous microorganisms and then propagating them and spraying them out on your own fields or whatever you have. So basically, that might be good for you. Obviously, this biology.
Let me get my handy dandy pen here and write that down.
Okay. Yeah, so all these microorganisms are what structure the soil and make soil aggregates and make that like really nice soil structure. So if you don't have biology in the soil, you're not going to be able to hold water. And so when you have this soil structure, you don't have to water so much. the nutrient cycling is a big thing because bacteria are like little sacks of nitrogen. And so if you have a lot of bacteria in your soil, but you don't have the predator prey like protozoa to eat the bacteria, you're not going to be releasing nitrogen to plants. So you have to have the whole diversity of microorganisms, predator prey, the whole cycle to cycle the nutrients for your plants to uptake and available form for them. So
this doesn't apply to farms either. This can apply to your backyard.
Yeah. Any living plants, I would say. Sure.
Cool.
Horticultural, agricultural. Yes. They all need biology. Life to life. So yeah. It uses, so the great thing too about it is that it uses very low cost inputs. I use brown sugar and leaves to make one of the inputs called FPJ, fermented plant juice. And Jim's putting out these different books up here for
yeah, because you gave it to me.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't want to interrupt your train of thought. So one of the ones is the one that really stood out to me is this: listen to the language of trees. I don't think I have the book with me, but there's this guy in England. His name is Tristan Gooley. You ever hear of him? He's got New York Times. I'll send you some stuff later. New York Times bestsellers are books like How to Read Water, How to Read Nature, How to Read Trees, Read This, How to Read That. It's all about nature and getting clues from nature, how to navigate nature alone. This kind of thing. And when I saw Listen to the Language of Trees, I was like, oh, that reminds me of Tristan Gooley. And I actually had a conversation with him. I interviewed him. We ever published it. I was going to write an article, but I don't think I ever wrote it. But great conversation. And I'll send you the info on it. But this book, What is the Language of Trees?
What is the language?
That's my question.
Oh.
Yeah, what is the language of trees? Yeah, so what is that? What is that?
Well,
what are they telling us?
I'm no expert, but it goes back to biology where the fungal networks is like our internet, right? So they're underneath the soil, like it's all connected. And so they study trees that can help other trees in the forest and communicate with each other through these neural networks. And I listened to this podcast called Advancing Eco Agriculture, John Kemp. And he recently had a podcast about a book by Stephen Buhner. And I forget the name of the book, but he was talking about the root hairs and the apex of the roots. They're very much similar to our brain, our neural networks. It's actually, it's the internet, it's the brain underneath the soil. And they are intelligent and they communicate. And you can go over our nature. Like I've read that
somewhere. Do the funguses have something to do with that?
Yeah, fungi are the base in the network of the mycelial network in the soil. They are the network, yeah. So in our sandy soil, we're missing that fungal action. So it's really, that's one of the things we try to use more, like leaves and wood chips, and getting more of the fungal back into our sandy soils to kind of balance it. Mm-hmm. And sandy soil isn't bad. It's great that it drains, and there's lots of micronutrients in the sandy soil. So it's actually, it's basically all I've known, but it would be hard for me to work in a really clay, sodden, like just holding all this water and moisture, So there's always something to get into, but the biology really solves, all the problems either way. So yeah, getting the roots.
I just thought that was just so cool that the fungal world is a big part of that. But I just think it's really interesting that a tree can tell another tree, or signal another tree that something's going on. So what would be a good example of that? Like, I'm having health problems. There's a virus. How do trees talk to each other? How do they help each other out?
Well, I I think aspen, that there's some studies on aspen trees, but if there's something is
There,
happening to one of them and they're weakening and or there's something like maybe something hit one and it fell down and it's partially cut off and it got weaker somehow, they actually
there's
send nutrients to that tree through the roots.
yeah, yeah.
Go ahead,
That
Tracy.
kind of works like human inflammation, doesn't it?
Well, those are there's forests of those trees, whole forests, and they're all in the same root system.
Yeah, that's just so cool.
It's amazing.
It's got all this whole thing going on in the underworld.
Yeah,
It is. Even just the same species of trees, I think what John, I have to listen to this podcast again, what Stephen Buhner was saying, but I think even diversity of species of trees or plants actually can help each other underneath the soil. It's like, it's not really Darwin's, struggle of survival of the fittest of the fit. Maybe it's something different than that. Maybe that's a really outmoded way of thinking about nature.
yeah.
I just think that's so cool.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Now we got a cat joining us.
Yeah. Hi. She likes. One day we're going to interview Selkie on the show.
There we go. There we go. There we go. Well, Val, Val, it's been fascinating having you here, and we had a nice talk about agriculture and your programs and all that. And I know we mentioned it before, but before we go, how can listeners support your play garden project, First Coast Urban Ag, and get involved in the programs? I mean, do you have a donate link on your website or that kind of thing?
We do. We certainly could use donations financially, but also, we can use some tools, we can use some seeds, compost, all the things. So yes, we do have a website, firstcoasturbanag.org. There is a donation button. There is a link or a contact thing you can put your information in, and we can get back to you. Yeah, my email, Valerie, firstcoasturbanag.org. It's a great way to get in touch if you want to come out.
Well, we'll definitely.
So, and then Tracy, when we post this episode up, we can put that link in there.
Absolutely.
For people who want to contact Valerie and make a donation on that.
Certainly.
That would be great.
Jim, have you got any final thoughts for us?
Well, it's just like a lot of the episodes that we've done is like, so how do you get from here to there, and it's just for Valerie's journey. It was motherhood that got her from one great thing she was doing to a different path. Another great thing that she's done. I'm very proud of you, by the way. I think it's just really awesome. And then, that it may be a little cliche is that we're all connected, but this just kind of is an affirmation of that ideal, as human beings, we're all connected. And even if we don't know it, even if we're not aware of it, even if we don't care about it, we just can't help it. We're connected one way or the other, and we're dependent on each other. And it's inspiring to know that the world thrives underneath the ground by doing just the same thing, by staying connected to all forms of life, funguses, bacteria, microbes, and trees. It's just a wonderful thing. So we're just very lucky to be part of this world.
Absolutely. And I have to close with by saying that once again, we've come away from another episode of Wednesday Night Live, learning some new stuff, and coming away with a really good feeling about this world.
Always. Thanks, Valerie, for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Learned a lot.
Okay.
Well, that's a wrap. Another fantastic episode of the podcast. You can find us on all the social media platforms, wherever you surf, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter X, Threads, wherever. Don't forget to like, share, and comment. And on our YouTube channel, don't forget to like, share, comment, and smash that subscribe button. If you're streaming audio for the podcast, you can find us wherever you get your favorite podcast programs. In the meantime, I like to tell everybody, take care of yourselves and each other. Until next time, peace.